Yeah, Fred, did you receive the message about the test that I sent on your WhatsApp group? The math competition. Did you not receive it? Did I send it on your group? Did I send it on a wrong group then, apparently? Okay. You are going to that math competition. You know that math competition that I spoke to you about? Not the Olympiad. The math competition. You guys are going to write at, let me just check here. You'll be writing it at 11:35. Okay, 11:35, and then you will write in. Let me just get this. No, wait. I'm sorry. I'm reading the wrong message here. From 1 to 2, you will be writing in Mrs. Berger's class today. But remember, that's not the one that you can prepare for. It's like games, maths games. Go. It's not the Olympiad. Yeah. Yeah, it's like Mass 24 and those things. Go. I just want to see which group I sent it on. I sent it on your group, Mathematics 11D. No, I did not. Where did I send it? Okay. Let's quickly mark that one sum that you had for today. It's just the one, eh? We had to calculate the coordinates of S. Were you able to do that? S is 1 and 5. Did you get that? Good job. Why is this thing not going on? I am. Okay. Is it on? Okay. Alright, so when you want to calculate the point of intersection, you let the two graphs be equal to each other. So function f's equation, you let it be equal to function g's equation, and then it looks like that. Negative x squared minus 2x plus 8 equal to x plus 4. You all understand that? Okay. Then you get everything on the same side, and then I still had a negative coefficient, so I multiplied everything with a negative, so it's x squared plus 3x minus 4 equal to 0. When I factorize, I get the two answers, negative 4 and 1. But you remember that that point P on the graph, we already had that as negative 4, so I knew that's not the one that I want the other one, which is S. And therefore I took the answer 1, substituted it. You can substitute in either one of the two equations, and then you get an answer of 5, and then point S's coordinates is 1 and 5. Do you all understand? Okay, yesterday, before the bell went, we started speaking about the maximum length of TV, the line TV. Do you agree? Do you remember that? Okay, so I'm just going to put the graph again, here again. I said So the distance, the length of TV would be the value of t minus the value of v. If I knew that t was 10 and I knew that v is 2, it would be very easy. We would say 10 minus 2 and the length will be 8. Okay, but now we don't have the value of t and we don't have the value of v. All that we know is that t is a point on the parabola and v is a point on the straight line. So we said yesterday, because of that, we will take the equation of the parabola minus the equation of the straight line. Do you all understand why I would do that? Everyone? Is there someone that says no? Because I can't see you all at once. Everyone fine. If the straight line was at the top, you would take the straight line's equation minus the parabola's equation. And I showed you yesterday that because you are subtracting the straight line, you'll have to put it in brackets. And then we get to a trinomial that looks like that. Minus x squared minus 3x plus 4. Now, if you've already written it down, I want you to so long take out that summary, that algebra or function summary that I handed out to you, the one that we have all the theory on. The first one, with the straight line, parabola, hyperbola, exponential. You see it there. Now the question, I'm going to read it to you again. It says, determine the maximum length. Determine the maximum length. Okay, first thing I want you to understand. This is a quadratic functions equation. This is a quadratic trinomial. But this is not the equation of this parabola on your diagram, né? Because it's your parabola minus the straight line. So it's just a quadratic trinomial. But I want you to take a look there at the quadratic functions. There are 3 standard forms. You remember that? Now at one of those standard forms, I read a word that they are asking for. I'm going to read the question again. Determine the maximum length of TV between the points P and S. One of the words that I just said, you will see there by one of the standard forms. See if you can find it. See if you know. Which one? What is the word? Maximum. Do you see that? If I have the standard form 2, let me somewhere write down a random one here. If I have standard form 2, let's say it's negative x minus 1 squared plus 6. If I have an equation in standard form 2, I can, except for me being able to read the turning point, I also have something else that I can use. Because I see the shape, this is a sad face. Now when you have a sad parabola, that parabola reaches a maximum. When you have a happy parabola, the parabola reaches a minimum. Okay? So when it's in this format, I can see that it has a maximum value and it has a minimum value. Do you know what the maximum or the minimum value will be? It will be Q. Okay? Because do you agree that's the highest point it reaches? Because it's a turning point. And then it will go back down. So this graph has a maximum, and the maximum value is Q. If the equation looked like this, then I see this graph is positive, therefore it has a minimum value, and the minimum value is negative 4. Okay, So whenever they ask you something about a maximum or a minimum value, we would love to get a quadratic trinomial. Because when we have a quadratic trinomial, we can get it into standard form 2, the PQ form. And with the PQ form, with all the forms I know whether it will have a minimum or a maximum, but with PQ, I know what the minimum or the maximum is. Because Q is the y value of the turning point, and that is the maximum or the minimum. Do you all understand what I'm saying now? Are you sure? Okay. So do you agree we are on the right track? We subtracted the two equations from each other, and now we're left with a trinomial. But it's in standard form 1. I don't know, I can't see a turning point Q value. But you understand this is not the function on this graph. This is an equation, listen carefully, this is an equation for the length of that line. The line can be very short or the line can be very long. I just want you to really understand this, because I know that sometimes it's confusing for learners. Do you see it can be very short, the two lines, or the line, the distance. But there's no minimum. It will always be one shorter, one shorter, one shorter. It will never be 0 between the lines. It will be 0 on the lines. But the distance will become smaller and smaller and smaller until negative infinity. Does that make sense? Okay. And then it will get bigger, 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 bigger until it reaches a maximum. And once it's reached the maximum, it will be smaller, 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 smaller again until negative infinity. And where those 2 points cut each other, it will be 0. There's no distance between them. So if you think of that length visually, all the possible values of the length of TV, do you see or do you understand that it is the equation of a quadratic formula, of a quadratic function? It is a parabola. Because it's very small values, very small values, very small, and increase, increase, increase. It reaches a maximum, and then after that maximum, the length will be short, 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 short until it goes to negative infinity. So do you see the length makes sense that it can be represented with a quadratic function? Do you understand that? Okay. So you know why this is trinomial. But you see that the problem is we don't have the turning point value. So I have to convert this standard form 1 to standard form 2. Now on that page I told you, I wrote there that you can get this shape to be standard form 2 by completing the square. Okay, that's one way. But do you agree we already know this has a maximum value because of the negative right there. That's not really what we're interested in. We are only interested in the Q value. Because when we just want to know what is the maximum value. So we also have a second method that we can find. Now I did it in the second method because I want to do the completing of the square with you. Okay, because you've forgotten it. Am I right? Ne? Okay. The second method is, if you look there on the page, we said if you have it in standard form 1 and you want to determine the turning point, then you just use negative b over 2a. Do you remember that? And when you substitute in that formula, you get the x value of the turning point. So you've actually found negative p. Okay? But once you've found that, you can substitute it into the equation and then you can find q. So all I did is I calculated the turning point with negative b over 2a. Do you all understand that? Do you say no? Who doesn't understand? Everyone. Okay. So I have quadratic trinomial. It's standard form 1. If you have standard form 1 and you want to calculate the turning point, you use negative b over 2a. When I use negative b over 2a, that is the x value of the turning point. The turning point's x value. This is q, this is the turning point's y value. The answer is 25 over 4. I just wrote it as 6,25. So now I am able to say that the maximum value of TP, the longest it can be before it will start decreasing in length again, will be 6,25. Are you done writing? I just want to show you here. This is in your textbook. Okay. So for instance, they can ask you the maximum length, they do ask it here, of PQ. The maximum length of PQ. So you would take the equation of the parabola minus the equation of the straight line, simplify it, then it will be a quadratic trinomial, then you just calculate the turning point. Because the turning point's y value is the maximum length. Does that make sense? Okay. They can also ask you, like here, they ask the length of OE. Look at that. And we're not going to practice this. I just want to show you the way that they ask it differently. O is the origin. E is the y-intercept. So if you know the y-intercept of the straight line is 1, then what's the distance of OE? 1. Because it's from 0 to 1. They ask you the length of OA. OA. O is still the origin. A is the y-intercept of the parabola. The parabola's y-intercept is 3. What's the length of OE? 3. They can ask you the length of CD. What is C? C. X-intercept. What is D? X-intercept. So do you agree all I have to do is factorize? I will get -1 and 3. So what is the length of CD? 4. Because it's from -1 to 3. Those are the easier ones. Then they can ask you, let me just see where's one where the, they can ask you the length of OF. OF. How would you find the length of OF? Look at F. Where is it? What is that line called? Huh? That line. BF. Ja, sê hard, kom op. It's the axis of symmetry. Do you see that? So you just want the x value of the turning point. So you would say minus b divided by 2a. You'd get the x value, then you'd have the length of that one. Or, you know, it's from 1 to 3, né? So it's 4 units. So the axis of symmetry will be 2 less than 3. So it will be at 1. So the length of OF will be 1. Do you see how they ask it tricky? They're still asking for the axis of symmetry. They're still asking for the turning point. They're still asking for the x-intercepts. They're still asking for the y-intercepts, but they ask it in a different way. Right. The next one, they want you to find the length of PR, that one. And then they say if OR is 1.5. So they're actually giving you the x value. They want you to calculate the y value on the parabola. So they want you to calculate f of 1.5, but they ask it differently. The length of PT, where is PT now? Yeah. PT, and then they also tell you if OP is 5 units. So you have to know, you have to substitute in -5 in the straight line to get the y value. Then you've got the length. It's that simple. Okay, so the hardest one of it all, yeah, they also ask it, is the one that we just did in that question. I only have an Afrikaans textbook, but you get it. The maximum length of BM. Once again, the same question. You don't have the value for B, you don't have the value for M. But you have the equation of the parabola, you have the equation of the straight line, so you subtract them from each other, get your trinomial, calculate the turning point. Because I want the Q value of the turning point, that is the maximum value. It's not that hard, eh? Okay. The last one, the last question we have there, is also, it's really not that hard, but it's something new that we don't really know. It's not something that we can learn. So you need to understand this for 3 marks. They say, determine the values of x for which x times f of x will be smaller than 0. Do you remember what smaller than 0 means? What? Negative. It means negative. Do you see there are 2 things being multiplied? How do I get a negative when 2 things multiply? One is negative, one is positive. I read such a nice thing in the one of the grade 8 textbooks. They said when you multiply integers, you need to think of it like this. When something good happens to someone good, it's good. Ne? If something good happens to someone bad, that's bad. If something bad happens to someone good, that's bad. And if something bad happens to someone bad, that's good. So you will remember it now, no? Okay. So let's see. We need to see where something bad happened to the one and something good happened to the other at the same time. Okay. The x is so easy because this side x is negative and on the other side x is positive. That's the x, ne? You understand that? Now f of x is the y values of the parabola. Okay. It's the y values of the parabola. So what is the y values of the parabola here? The y values of the parabola here, where it starts. It can be positive or negative. What is it? Negative. So negative we are highlighting with one color. So there's something bad is happening to someone bad. That's good. We don't want good. There, the y values are positive. Still after the y values are still positive. And then here it goes down again, it's negative. Do you understand what I just did? Okay. Everywhere where the x is negative, I made it pink, and where the x is positive, I made it orange or yellow. I don't know what it shows there on your. And then everywhere where the x is positive, I made it the orange, and everywhere where the y values or where the graph is positive, I made it orange as well. And then we read it from left to right. So bad things are happening to a bad person. That's not what we want. Until there. One is good, one is bad. This is what we want. From -4 up to here, good things are happening to good people. That's not what we want. So from -4 to 0, good things were happening to bad people. And then after 2, bad things are happening to good people again. So we will say from -4 to 0 and from 2 to infinity. Does the answer make sense? Okay. So as I say, it's not something that you can go and study. And sometimes they won't give you the x-axis and the function. Sometimes they will say g times f. So the straight line times the parabola. Then you will highlight where the straight line is negative, where the parabola is positive, what, you will look for that. If that was the question, both of them are negative, both of them are positive, but right from 2 to infinity. The one will be negative and the other one will be positive. That's if the question was about the two graphs being multiplied. But this one was the x-axis times the parabola. So therefore, my answer here is going to be -4 up to 0 and then from 2 to infinity. I'm writing the answers before I'm going to put in the brackets, because we just need to think about the brackets. They are asking for smaller than or, no, not smaller than or. They are just asking for smaller than 0, so only negative. So at the point -4, is one of the values, or either or both, is one of them 0? Yes, the parabola is 0. So 0 times -4 would be 0. So I can't include -4. It will be a round bracket. At the x0, can you already hear x is 0? So I can't include 0. At 2, the parabola is 0. So I can't include 2. And I never include the infinity. Okay. I want you now to move on to the November 2018 question paper. Question 3 and question 4 is number patterns. We're not going to look at that now. I want you to do question 5 and question 6. You will see question 5 is once again where they don't give you the graphs. So obviously you're going to have to draw it. Nee? Look at that. The equations are f of x equal to 4 over x minus 3 plus 2. What function is that? Hyperbola. And g of x equal to x plus 2. What's that? Straight line. Very good. And then if you page to question 6, you can somewhere see it there. Which two functions will that be? A parabola and exponential. Quickly look at the equation of f, the parabola. F of x equal to negative bracket x minus 3 squared plus 25. Which standard form is that? Standard form 2. What do I get from standard form 2? The most important one? Turning point. Remember? Or can you please, I want one of you to put up your hands and tell me what the turning point is. No, from that equation. Yeah, and remember, Q is only one value of the point. Okay. Temba. Do you hear what he says? Although it says negative 3 in the equation, it's positive 3 and 25 because we used P as negative P. Okay. How would I get that one to standard form 1? You just multiply it, simplify it. Okay. And do you see when we look at the equation of G, I can read the asymptote. I read the value of the asymptote. I'm sure they'll ask you something about the asymptote or the range. Okay. All right. Do question 5 and 6. Do as much as you can. Even if you're stuck, you've got the rest of the period to do that. Okay.